So on this particular map of the Enneagram, or this diagram of the Enneagram, there's a lot of information. And not only do we identify these 9 types, but you'll see the words body, heart, and head. And there are 3 triads, or 3 groups of 3 in the Enneagram, making 9. And the body types, these body types 8, 9, and 1, have some very distinct features or qualities that they have in common, even though they're distinct and unique personality styles or different strategies for managing life. And the 2, 3, and 4, which are the heart types, again, they have a lot in common in terms of how they move through life, but they're also very distinct within the heart types. And the same is true of the head. They have a lot in common, and yet there are some very interesting distinctions. So we're going to go into some of those distinctions as we look at each one of these triads. So let's take a look at each one of these centers and dive in a little bit more deeply. The body center, or the 8s, 9s, and 1s, we're going to give them names so they're just not numbers. Our 8s are described as the boss or the entrepreneur, and the 9s are described as the mediator or peacemaker, and the 1 is the perfectionist or the reformer. And let's talk about the 8 first. So within the body center, there's a distinct relationship to functioning from an intuitive place, a place where our sensate experience, sometimes called feelings, but body feelings, kind of inform us of what's going on. We have a sudden experience of energy moving through our body that is trying to tell us something. We've all had these experiences, whether or not we're a body type. When you get creepy crawlies, little goosebumps on your arms, that's a sensate experience. When your gut is trying to tell you what to do, whether or not you listen to it or not, that's a sensate experience. So all 3 of these types have a particular way of being within that sensate experience, and a particular way of managing something that feels uncomfortable. And the discomfort comes in the form of power and control, a need for finding power and control in your life. So our 8s are bosses or our entrepreneurs. They have the most outward, direct expression of enthusiasm energetically. At times it can feel very intimidating. It's a real burst of energy, and a lot of times it appears almost angry, because 8s are probably the most comfortable type on the Enneagram with anger. But more than that, there is this over-exuberance and intensity that has you experiencing the 8 before they even walk in the room sometimes. The energy almost precedes them walking in the room. And the way that they function in their body is with this kind of gusto of energy. The 9s, interestingly enough, although they're a body type, they're more sedentary. They're more likely to have an experience of anger and express it in a passive-aggressive way. They kind of go along to get along. They're called a peacemaker or a mediator, and don't particularly like conflict. We'll go into a lot more of that as we do some more specific things about each type. And our 1s, they also have a distinct experience with their bodies, but it's around the need to kind of see things morally correct and not particularly appreciating the energetic gusto of anger, and so they push it down a bit. And although you can experience the anger around them oftentimes, many times they can't, or they'll come off as just frustrated. So as we go around the wheel in a clockwise fashion, we're going to talk about the heart types. And the 2s, 3s, and 4s are heart types on the Enneagram, not because they're particularly more emotionally aware than any other type, but clearly because they have a particular relationship with this heartfelt experience that attempts to inform them. So the 2s, 3s, and 4s have a particular relationship with the need for connection. They are more concerned with abandonment and disconnection, and have a sense of panic around that. And so they're types that want to connect through relationships. They're the most relational or the relationship-driven types on the Enneagram. The 2s go out to find relationships. They're more likely to be focused on other people and instead of themselves and their own feelings. So their feeling focus is on other people's feelings. The 3s are not particularly focused on feelings. In fact, feelings are kind of seen as pretty messy and they kind of get in the way, but they also are very, very driven by what's going on in terms of their heartfelt emotions. And they kind of set them aside. And the 4s are more likely to experience that direct information from their own heartfelt experiences in a pretty intense way. So that's the information or the strategy that the heart types use, is they're informed through relationships, they're informed through a need for connection and an aversion to feeling disconnected. The 3s, by the way, are more likely to want connections. Even though the feelings are messy, they're more likely to look for connections and embrace them maybe more in the workforce because it's not nearly as threatening with feelings, because feelings can be easily set aside in a professional relationship. Moving on to our head types, our 5s, 6s, and 7s, they are informed through wisdom or the gathering of information. And their aversion is fear. They function and have a particular type of relationship to fear. So this particular center of intelligence, it gathers information as a means to mitigate fear. And the 5s do that through merely just gathering information. They're the people who see information as power and are constantly gathering facts and information as a means of just informing themselves, staying informed and staying particularly away from any insecurity. So safety, security, and certainty are what drives the 5s, 6s, and 7s. And in that, like I said, the 5s are gathering information to make sure that they have enough information to make sure that they feel safe and secure. The 6s are also scanning their environment for danger and having a relationship with avoiding danger or pushing through danger. It's a phobic and counterphobic stance that we'll go into a lot more at a later time. And the 7s gather information in a positive way, or they reframe a situation. So if anything feels threatening or fearful to them, they reframe it. So they're the people who make lemonades out of lemon and can see the positive aspect or the optimistic aspect of being afraid, or will take being afraid and reframe it. So these are, as we talk about these centers of intelligence, or these 3 triads, we're referring to information that comes intuitively in our body types, that comes heartfelt or emotionally in our heart types, and through wisdom or the gathering of information in our head types. And again, we need all 3 of these things. So regardless of what type you are or how you get information, whether it's through your body or your heart or gathering information in your head, the task is, as you study the Enneagram, to integrate these centers of intelligence, to be able to see how information is coming to you from all 3 of these areas, all 3 of these centers of intelligence, so that you can access them and make really good life choices. How do you do that? That should be our next question. How do you do that? Well, you have to be able to stand back from yourself, because when you are in reactivity mode, when you are on full tilt, on default, when something pisses you off and things are not going your way, your central nervous system kicks in, and we are totally not able 100% of the time to be angels, right? No, can't happen. So we get into this reactivity mode. The ability to quiet our central nervous systems down, the ability to stand back from ourselves, the ability to grow self-awareness and observe those patterns, that's the ticket. That is the ticket.